Hello everyone and welcome back to the Nerd Den here once again, and in today's video we've got a short little theory that has been circulating on Twitter recently, which I want to cover because I find it really interesting about how this potentially changes your perspective on the recent Doctor Who episode The Well, which was a secret sequel to Midnight, which saw, shock shock, the Midnight Entity return, that terrifying villain that we don't really know too much about or don't really see too much of, so we don't really know what the entity looks like, but there's been some more lore added to it, and honestly, it's just as terrifying as the original. So yeah, we're going to be having a look at this theory and how it potentially changes the actual plot of the episode and what it could mean for a potential follow-up. So with all that being said, let's get into the video. So yeah, this is coming from Twitter, and yeah, we're just going to dive straight into it. So this user says, doesn't tell them what happened to the crew and intentionally obscures the information she gives them. She knows the entity is on her and yet constantly tries to explain that she is clean to them. So obviously this user is referring to Alice, who is played by Rosie Ayling-Ellis. And yes, her character at the beginning, she tries to act all innocent, but obviously through certain camera shots, we do know that there's something more going on. So yeah, this user is referring to the opening of her character and how she's trying to portray herself to be completely innocent. Then the user follows up by saying, often loops her dialogue, which all furthers the goal of leaving the planet. So yeah, she's constantly saying that she just wants to leave. She's just repeating herself, which, for those in the know, the Midnight Entity does have a reputation for repeating themselves. So I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of credence to this theory. The next point is presented at the perfect vulnerable victim to be found in the center of a room. So, yeah, again, just following on from the point that Alice is meant to be a very vulnerable character, someone who is meant to get home to their daughter, and that is their main goal. She is trying to show that she's scared. So, there's a lot of coincidence surrounding this character. Her life sign only become visible after the soldiers have explored the base. That is likely when she was reactivated. So yeah, perhaps her body was resurrected by the entity when the entity knew that people had arrived on the base. So yeah, that is a solid enough theory. The next point does not consider covering up the dead body of her best friend she had been stuck with for 15 days. So yeah, again, another little bit of a weird point. And as well, her helmet lights at the end are not on. We see with the others, they also activate with the suits, implying that it is not registered her as living. So, again, we don't actually see her after this moment either, so maybe the entity kills her off screen. Again, it does add towards the theory. And then the following point is, she smiles at the Doctor at the end as the door closes. This mixed in with the grey spacesuit helmet further adds to the dead look of her metaphorically. Not to mention, there is only an orange and gold helmet visible in the storage bay earlier, which makes the grey helmet feel more intentional. She is the only survivor and therefore the only one who could have scrambled the video logs. And then finally, her wounds are still fresh after 2 weeks, likely caused by her being the one who smashed the mirrors. So yeah, a big theory indeed. And this is all down to the fact that, yeah, quite a few people that have watched this episode have theorized that Alice was in fact dead the entire time when we were watching The Well. So whilst the events were taking place, she is simply just an advanced form of a puppet, perhaps being used by the entity. And it used this woman's terrified final moments and turned it into a trap for the troopers and the Doctor. So if this entity does return in the future, perhaps this could be a power that's further explored. So let me know what you think of this theory in the comment section down below, because yeah, there's a lot of potential that could be explored in a future installment that brings back the Midnight Entity, which was set up at the end of the episode. But if you are new around here, please click that like button and subscribe for more nerdy content, as we are on the road to 8,000 subscribers, which I would love to reach by the end of the year. But yeah, take care. Thank you very much for tuning in, and goodbye for now.